In episode 513, Ryan and Jose are joined by David Blair for another book club of blood. This time we cover Son of Celluloid. This is the Clive Barker Podcast, where longtime fans Ryan and Jose interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. This episode will be available in podcast audio and YouTube video. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art, but Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over the Etsy shop to buy one of his original paintings or books. Follow the link in the show notes or click the side banner, and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Texas friends, Don Bertram will be at an art show in Pearland November 22nd at County Place Social Hall. Please check out his paintings The Waiting Room 2, Tulips III, and Date Night. Let's welcome our other sponsor, Ed Martinez, and his YouTube channel. Lots of great special effects videos and Barker-related content. What's the latest from Ed? We have a new sponsor. It's the Now Playing Podcast. Arnie, Stewart, Justin, Marjorie, and Brock host a long-running movie review podcast and have a comprehensive blog with book reviews. Check out this one on the Hellbound Heart. They've even written a book on underrated movies. They started in 2007, but the podcast really took off when they began doing movie retrospective series in 2009, like when they did Friday the 13th, or all the Stephen King movies. They've even covered Clive Barker movies in some Patreon exclusive episodes. Please check out the Now Playing Podcast, and if you love it like we do, you might want to help out their donation drive. Here's their most recent stuff. In the month of October, they've covered Journey Back to Oz, The New Mission Impossible, The Wiz, Marvel Zombies, Maniac Cop, and Moneyball. Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. David Anderson, Erik Van T Holt, Daniel Elven, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, Matthew Batten, Bennett, Jesse, Clara Leslie, Timothy Ramakers, Terry Murdock, Don Bertram Celebrate Imagination, Ed Martinez's YouTube channel, and the Now Playing Podcast. Check out on Patreon by Jose Leitao, The Lost World of the Ectosphere, the unpublished video game based on Ecto Kid, the comic book. Welcome to episode 513 of the Clive Barker Podcast. And today we're doing the Book Club of Blood. We're returning to that series with Son of Celluloid, the first story in Volume 3 of the Books of Blood. And welcome, David. David's returning to chat with us again about another Books of Blood story.
Thank you. This is one of my favorite ones, too. Especially the graphic novel, I think, was one of the best ones they did.
Yeah,
of the story.
Yeah. I've got it right there.
Yep, I got mine, too, back there.
Yeah.
It's a very good adaptation, very thorough, with all the dialogue and all the beat-by-beat story.
Yes. Yeah, and adapted by Steve Niles and Les Edwards doing the art. Steve Niles is he did a lot of Clive Barker adaptations for these graphic novels, and a lot of the way he adapted them was taking large chunks of text directly from the stories and putting them in little boxes that kind of describe the action that's going on.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but before we get into the story, though, I want to do a quick update. We have a new sponsor, and we'll get into that more because they gave us a whole bunch of stuff to go through, and so we need to go through that still. But the Now Playing podcast is a sponsor, so we'll be. I've listened to a few of their episodes now, and they do really in-depth movie interviews, movie reviews. Sorry, and then one more quick Kickstarter update. I've gotten surveys back from everybody except for Nathan Smith. So Nathan Smith, I need your survey so that that would be the last thing I need an address for so I can ship it out. So if you're listening, Nathan, please get that done so that I can, because I also, my printer is in the Airbnb and we've got guests in there. So now I can't print the mailing labels until they get out and I get everybody's address. So I have all the addresses except for that one.
Right. We got to get you your rewards.
Yeah. All right. So Son of Celluloid. I think more and more nowadays as we read these, we start thinking about if these could be adapted to a movie. And I think maybe this is one that probably couldn't. I think that
It would cost
personally,
way too much.
yeah,
to
too
get the
much, too much.
rights.
Yeah, the rights issues. I mean, they even have struggled with that in the comic adaptation, and on top of that, these references are dated now. I mean, Marilyn Monroe. I mean, we're all like, I don't know how old you are, David, but I'm assuming you're probably similar age to us, and none of us were even alive before Marilyn Monroe died.
Right.
Yeah, and so and we're not that young,
Right.
and so I
She
think
died in
we've got
62.
some, yeah, John Wayne and Marilyn Monroe are kind of dated references now, and they were a big deal and sort of icons of cinema
Oh, yeah.
in the 80s when this story was written, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, people younger generations than us, it's 50-50 whether they even know who these people are.
My
Yeah,
parents. Go ahead.
they would have to update them to more relevant people from maybe the 90s or early 2000s or
Yeah.
80s even, to
Yeah, like Tom Cruise or I don't know,
mm-hmm.
Sure.
Julia
Sure.
Roberts.
Yeah, my parents loved Western movies, so I've grew up watching a lot of John Wayne movies, the stuff with Rio Grande and John Ford movies and stuff like that. So my parents were crazy about that because my parents were relatively old regarding when they had me. They were pretty old already, so they were born in the 30s. So they grew up on all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I do remember my mom, growing up, cinema was just down the street from where she lived. So they would go there to watch matinees and stuff on the weekends whenever they could scrounge up some money to go buy a ticket. And she always told me she loved Westerns, but she hated musicals. Whenever they bought the ticket and they went in and the music started, they were like, oh, it's a musical. Those old MGM musical stuff.
Yeah.
I like those, I guess, but I don't really pursue them. But it's this story is very nostalgic, right? It goes into like the magic of the movie theater and
Right.
the nostalgia of the movies.
There's
Yes,
a sort of
very
a
much.
complicated metaphor here with it, relating it to a tumor or a cancer, right? I mean, because and you ask anybody, that's usually a really negative reference, but here it's kind of like it's an ambition wanting to grow and be more than itself, and I mean, I guess that's what cancer is, sort of. But you don't think of that as like a positive. I mean, usually ambition and wanting to grow and evolve is a positive trait, but not for cancer.
Yeah. This tumor is the little tumor that could.
It needs to be constantly fed.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's an
right.
attention vampire. Yeah. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
this is even the story is interestingly divided in three parts, or you could say three acts almost.
Yeah.
Yep.
The first being a little it just says one, but it's almost like it's the trailer, right? And then the second one is the main feature, and then the third part is the deleted scenes, uh, which in a
Right,
way
yeah. Or
reflects
nowadays it would be the post credit scene.
right
Yes,
post
the
credit
post-credit
scene.
scene.
Yeah.
That great point. But it almost kind of mirrors the 3-act sequence of any movie story as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the story came out in '84 from Books of Blood, Volume 3. And the story opens with Barbario, right? He's a fugitive criminal. We don't really
Yeah.
know exactly what city this takes place in. It's kind of left ambivalent. But
Mhm.
because he mentions like his personal little god called Sing Sing, I'm going to guess this takes place somewhere in New York. At least that's how I imagined it.
I don't think so because of the ending. I think because she tracked down what's her name?
Lindy? Lindy
Lindy
Linda
Lee?
Lee
Lee.
in Seattle. So
Ah,
I'm thinking that Lindy Lee probably wouldn't have been able to get super far.
oh,
So
I
I'm
see.
thinking
Okay.
Pacific Northwest somewhere.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Seattle, Portland, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I kind of got caught up in the Sing Sing thing, and I was like, Sing Sing's a prison in New York. So,
Oh yeah.
but it opens almost like an action movie, right? So it's like this guy is a
Yeah.
thief and he's like on the run, which um
Yeah.
his escape is funny. He just kind of climbed the wall and left, got out of the jail,
Yeah.
And it worked.
and it
He
worked.
just, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, he
it's
couldn't
just a
believe it himself and he gave away everything he owned in his life, and he had a bunch of IOUs that he had to fulfill being outside of the prison.
it's kind of a small town crook, right? I think he
Yeah,
stole held up liquor stores or something.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
he'd
So he
never
refers to
killed
the
anyone until now, until this policeman recognized him and took a shot at him. Well, he
he
shot
says
at him first.
introduction.
Yeah,
His introduction to murder was the big one. He killed a cop.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um,
He doesn't seem to feel too bad about it. It's more like, oh
No.
man, this is gonna make them hunt me more.
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Yeah.
wounded as well, right? So
Yeah,
he's in distress. He's wounded because when he was caught by a young cop in a alleyway,
yeah,
who kind of recognized him from the APB, you know, there was a showdown, almost a little bit like a Western showdown, where one guy is on the end of the alleyway and the other one is on the other end of the alleyway, and he shot the cop. And now he's on the
yeah.
run, but also got shot in the leg, which is a
Well,
terrible
first
place to get
he
shot.
fired a warning shot because he thought that would make him
Yeah,
take cover and give him a chance to run. But then the guy didn't run. He just sat there. He stood there and took aim and fired again. And so then Barbario kind of had to shoot him.
right.
Yeah,
But so he's wounded. He's on the run, and he's trying to find a place to hide. Right. So he comes across this old burnt down restaurant, I think, behind a movie
Mhm.
theater,
yeah,
and all of a sudden, he starts hearing the sirens. The sirens are kind of getting closer.
yeah,
So we're taken into this moment of uh, almost like action scene where he's like trying to get into the debris of the restaurant, and he finds a vent that he can get
yeah.
into and hide himself. And although there's a lot of information given about Barbario, this guy, which doesn't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
matter much in the
yeah.
end, because he's not going to make it. He's
Right.
not going
And
to make it the whole way through the story, obviously.
well, and it's not even his ghost that's causing the problems in the later story,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Right. But I like that he had this little idea of his personal pantheon of gods that would help him. One of them was the
yeah,
god Sing Sing. And so he
yeah,
imagined that as a big fat guy with like a big grin and holding a salami in one hand and a cup of black coffee on the other. And
yeah,
two things that I'm sure people miss when they're in jail: good
yeah.
meats and good coffee.
He calls him
And
the
in the
god of liquor store
graphic,
robbers.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the graphic novel, they even Les Edwards even did a picture of him.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
It looks really,
yeah,
really funny. The guy with his crossed legs with his arms holding the two things.
The
yeah,
lotus
Um,
position.
yeah.
yeah,
And he made his escape, and he got some help from some people, like his sweetheart Geraldine gave him some whiskey and
yeah,
stuff. And he hides himself into that vent, which unknowingly to Barbario leads to the back of a theater, right? A movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he thinks he's going to be safe. But unfortunately, without his knowledge, when he was going through the vent, apparently his wound got opened. And he's, like I said, the leg is a terrible place to get shot because there's a lot of arteries and veins going there. And he kind of starts tripping out a bit. He starts feeling like the air is a little kind of tingly behind that, movie screen. And he
Yeah.
starts kind of hallucinating. And at first, it's not really clear whether this hallucination is him like slipping away or if it's something that's really like, taking hold of him. But
Yeah, it's in the interior monologue. It's kind of like these aren't. He's thinking like these aren't moments from my life. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an interesting sort of narrative trick that Clive Barker does in here that he doesn't usually. He does like third person omniscient, but it's into the persona of whichever character he's focused on at that moment. But there's one moment when he that point of view steps back a little bit and says Barbario wouldn't have known about cancer. Cancer is not something that even runs through his mind. And I
Right.
remember reading that, and I was thinking, whoa, this is pretty different for Clive to kind of step back and say, like, I'm going to talk now about stuff that this guy doesn't even know about.
yeah,
Um,
because as he's walking, not just the leg is throbbing, but also his stomach has been giving him troubles, and he doesn't know that
yeah,
he's actually
he
has a
thinks it's
cancer.
just from years of eating bad prison food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
few weeks of pizza and beer would fix him up.
yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah,
and it makes sense
pizza
because
makes me feel really sick if I eat a lot of pizza.
people who live, dangerous lives, they don't really, it's like live fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. And it's
Yeah.
like it says here something like that he worrying about a terminal illness for someone like Barbario would be like the cow looking at an ingrown hoof as it comes up to
Yeah.
meet the piston.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like
Yeah.
Clive felt like he needed to explain to the audience why it never even occurred to Barbario that he had cancer.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he feels this tingliness in the air around him, and he starts seeing all these like things, and unknowingly he's just looking at the movie being projected um, on
Yeah.
the screen that he's hiding behind, and it's a
Yeah.
Satyricon from Fellini, the movie. So he's
Yeah.
just he kind of sits there and bleeds out as he watches the
Yeah.
movie, and that's it
And
for
the
Barbario.
narrator steps back again and says, like, well, he doesn't know what movie this is, but if he did, he would hate it. He would
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
think it was crap, Italian crap and stuff.
Yeah. And this theater is called the Movie Palace, which gives it kind of a nostalgic,
Yeah.
nostalgic
Yeah.
name. Yeah,
Yeah,
where
it looks like the kind of theater that there used to be a lot of where that had one screen, and
mhm.
would show
Mm-hmm.
one movie at a time.
Yeah, in this case, it's a double bill of Fellini, Satyricon, and it doesn't really mention in the story which one is the other, but Les Edwards makes a little marquee in the graphic novel adaptation where it says Satyricon, an 8.5 by Fellini. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I didn't
And they
notice that.
describe the inside of it as like one of those old time movie theaters where there's like all kinds of motifs. In this particular case, it's like angels and cherubs and because it used to
Yeah,
be a church or something at one time.
yeah.
A mission.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and they
And the
got
place that
converted.
and the place that Barbario snuck into was like a little space left over from the church that had been sort of walled out because it had a fresco of angels that they didn't feel comfortable painting over, so they said let's just build a false wall in front of that
Hmm.
wall. So he probably only had like 3 feet or something of space in there.
It says it was like a space of 4 feet.
Oh, 4 feet. Yeah.
And the only person who knew about it had died, so now nobody alive knows this thing
Yeah.
even exists.
Yeah,
And he
Harry
talks about,
Cleveland was the guy that
yeah,
knew. Yeah.
and they talk about how this area has become like supercharged with all the people through the years staring at the screen. It's got all this energy
Yeah.
built up and it needed a release. And when this guy died, his tumor became the catalyst. All of a sudden, all that energy got displaced into it. And that's what kind of brought it to life
Well,
as a sentient being.
Now that we're talking about it, and this didn't occur to me before, but I wonder if it's important that it had been a church, a place of worship before, and suddenly the
Oh.
focus of worship changed from a god
Religion
to yeah,
to
from
movies.
to movies, yeah, and so that all of that focus and power went from one thing to this other thing for the past 50 years.
It speaks a little bit about Clive's idea that if you believe, that appears in some stories like The Forbidden with Candyman,
Mm-hmm.
that if you
Mhm.
believe something or if you give something enough psychic energy, it can gain
Yeah.
form and cross over into
Oh yeah.
our world from the realm of imagination. And also a
Right.
bit tropey. It's almost like the haunted theater, right? It's kind of a trope in some movies like
Yeah.
the Phantom of the Opera
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Demons by Lamberto Bava, where a theater becomes like a haunted place and people get trapped in the theater and they have to deal with the evil that's haunting it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like the decades of psychic residue of people
Yeah.
experiencing life, because movies are almost like we have our own personal experience, I think, and then we have experience that's um not direct experience, right? When you watch a
Yeah.
movie, you're experiencing a story, but you're not really living it. You're just
Right.
imagining that you're living it. And for some people, it becomes almost like a memory. It becomes almost like they see the world. And in this
Mm-hmm.
case, all these decades of audience emotion kind of resonated and accumulated in the
Yeah.
building. And then it becomes almost like a cathedral of collective dreams.
Mm-hmm.
There's talk about that perfect moment when you sort of forget yourself and merge into the movie, and that's kind of this moment of movie magic that I think is important to the this new creature. And I'm also kind of interested in this tumor and how it sort of how long it took to change from a tumor into this other thing that it became in the theater. It was like was it 8 months between when Barbario died
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden all these events started
Yes.
happening? But it
Yeah, it
didn't
needed
seem to
time to grow.
but it didn't ever seem to like murder, anybody in that time in between. It went
It was
from
it was feeding off of it, I
off of
guess.
just people watching movies, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden that, now that's not enough. Now it's like now, yeah, I'm going to take everything you've got and then I'm going to take your eyes too, so that I can just keep your eyes because eyes are the focus of the.
I think it also mentions the decline of cinema a little bit, right? Because it mentions
Yeah.
those 8 slow months in which business had been at best patchy. So he's
Yes.
he's kind of he's kind of developing himself. He's kind of absorbing that energy. So Barbario's
Oh,
cancer has gestated inside the corpse
And it
of Barbario.
mentions it needs to continue. So
Yeah,
it now needs to find other avenues of getting that attention, which
yeah.
I don't
and
think it survives in today's theater market.
Oh
right,
my
right.
gosh. Yeah. When I just saw Tron Ares, there were only like 5 people in the theater.
Oh
You saw
yeah.
Tron Ares? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's the only Tron movie ever that didn't actually have Tron in it. Like
oh
the
yeah,
Oh.
character Tron wasn't in there.
yeah. It's like it's an AI generated
No,
military AI or something. No,
no,
okay.
no, he's not in it at all. Bruce Boxleitner decided he didn't want to be in the movie
Right.
because
It's
he got.
Jared Leto. That's like the military AI, right?
Bruce Boxleitner
Yeah.
said they didn't even bother asking him. They
Oh,
didn't
there
they
you
didn't
go.
want the
Oh,
character
really?
at
Well, and
all. Yep.
and on the now playing podcast, they talked about how he was there. They had been planning this sequel since 2015, and they
Hmm.
almost made it, and then they pulled out and didn't. And he got so angry that he told him he didn't want to be in any more Tron movies. But I don't know. I mean, maybe in this case he would have changed his mind if then they didn't ask him.
Oh, right. Well, this theater, like I said, it's getting a little patchy, so there's not a lot of people coming in. I get the feeling that this place is just one of those old theaters where it's like the only thing standing in a neighborhood of closed up businesses. And but still the
Hmm.
Friday and Saturday double bills are the thing that still has some people. And I guess this would take
Yeah.
place in one of those double bills. Clint Eastwood movies that night, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
and we
Yeah.
have a couple of characters here in the lobby. Lindy Lee, who's just this young girl who's
Yeah.
sitting in the lobby waiting for her boyfriend, and the ticket lady, who's a character called Birdie, right?
Birdie, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Birdie is not really impressed with Clint Eastwood. She's like, I don't get why people think he's attractive. He's so squinty.
Quinty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Birdie is a little distressed because she's been waiting for her boyfriend for like 20 minutes and he hasn't showed up yet from the bathroom. So
Yeah.
this is where the mystery starts developing. You know, the Birdie has to find someone to go into the men's bathroom, and I think there's a projectionist in the movie called Ricky, and that's the
Mhm.
other guy, right? So it
He's the
looks like-
manager. He's got the keys, and
Yeah.
him and Birdie were a thing several months before, but now
Yeah.
they're
He's
not.
older
Now
than
they're
her. He's like 37. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's old enough to have been a hippie in the 60s.
yeah.
yeah, he's got a T-shirt saying "Only the young die good," and does
Yeah.
drugs. He's depicted as a guy who, you know, like does drugs and generally doesn't have a lot of prospects. And they're both kind of like stuck in this dead end job at this theater. And
Yeah.
Birdie also, she's a little on the chubby side. She kind of gave up on romance. She thinks of herself as being fat and unattractive.
Mhm.
And she's just
Especially
bored out
her
of her mind.
arms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Her arms.
She
Yes.
obsesses with her fat arms.
Yeah.
So that's her defining characteristic in the story, and I think it's a interesting female character that Clive Barker creates. Again, she's going to become kind of the hero of the story, and she's going to turn her own like inadequacy into the weapon that's going to empower her when it comes to the final
Yeah.
showdown.
She's also
Yeah,
smart.
Yeah.
And that's
The-
a downfall
the-
for her too.
Yes, she is smart, and she's not easy to dupe for the main like antagonist of this story. And Jose was mentioning that's that's kind of an archetypal character for Clive Barker, is the either overweight or sort of underappreciated or
Mousy.
yeah
Quiet.
yeah, female character.
Yeah.
Even Kirsty in the Hellbound Heart is like that. I mean, she doesn't look like that in Hellraiser, but that's how she was in the book.
Yeah, she's a co-worker of Rory, who then
Right.
became Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Secretly
so
pining after him, even though he's boring.
yeah. So Birdie
Yeah.
thinks that probably her Lindy Lee's boyfriend is probably on the bathroom doing drugs or something. So she gets Ricky to go check up on him, and
Yeah.
I like the
He-
way that they describe the environment inside the theater. They mentioned something like the smell of cigarettes, popcorn, and people, which I guess if you've been in one of those old theaters, it is kind of like what you
Yeah.
get when you go in, you know, sticky
Mhm.
floors and cigarette
Talk
smell.
about the tore up
I-
seats and
Yeah.
I
Back
don't
in the
miss
day when people
days
smoked.
I know. I don't miss that at all. I'm so glad that we don't have that. Or on airplanes. Remember the airplanes? Even for a long time, they still had ashtrays in them, even when they didn't allow smoking on the airplanes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
traveling a lot in like coach buses, and there was usually you could smoke in the last row of the bus, and I was like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense because then it just fills up the whole.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I grew up with still in Portugal. I grew up with some theaters that were kind of like that single screen where you would get
Yeah.
before the movie
Mhm.
starts, you get the slides of the local businesses, you know, the furniture
Yeah.
shop, the shoe store or whatever. And then it even had guys who were really old ushers who had little uniforms and little flashlights that would take you
Oh,
to
yeah.
your seat.
Yep.
It didn't last too long. I remember that when I was like,
Yeah.
you know, a kid going to the child matinee where I watched a lot of Disney features that way. But I still remember those, you know, bubble gum stuck in the carpet and, you know, stuff like that.
I think that by the time like the 90s came around, those types of theaters became dollar theaters.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we started getting supermarkets or shopping malls that would have like multiplexes with more than one screen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which put all
remember
the other movies to
in
out of business.
in Washington in Enumclaw, there was a theater like that. And I went in there one day where they hadn't cleaned the floor, and there was popcorn up to your ankles in the theater. You
ew.
had to
Dang.
wade your way to the seat.
Eee.
Gross.
Yeah.
And then I remember starting the decay of those theaters when, they would start putting, like, I think it was either on Thursdays and Sundays at midnight, they would play porno movies. So
Yeah, right.
you'd come out of the main
Yeah.
feature around 11 or something, because it would start at 9 and then like close to 10:45 or something. And then there would be a bunch of guys in raincoats just waiting outside to go watch the midnight session. There was like behind the green door or something like that. And that's how they made money,
Yeah.
really sleazy, like
Yeah.
movie theaters.
Or they would be the type of place that would show the Rocky Picture Horror Show every weekend,
Yeah.
or some type of that. Like they then became known as like the independent art theater that would show like art house movies.
Yeah.
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 Before streaming was a thing and all that kind of stuff.
Like foreign movies, that was the
Yes.
way to see those. I
Do you guys remember-
had a few of
memories
those.
that way. Yeah.
Do you guys have any memory of the first movie or the oldest movie that you remember watching in the theater?
Yeah,
Sinbad
there's
and Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger.
Okay. Is that like one of those old fantasy movies?
Yeah. It was
Okay, what
from
about
like
you, David?
76, I think.
Star
Oh.
Wars at the drive-in theater.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great time.
Star
remember
Wars
one-
was my second one.
I think I remember Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I remember watching that because my parents took me to watch it. And then in 1982, maybe I watched E.T. or 1981. I remember E.T. when it was in the movie theater. And I remember crying my eyes out when E.T. dies. And I remember all the theater was like just kids crying. That's
I remember
times.
the preview for or the TV commercials for ET made it look like a horror movie, because there were all these, it was like a teaser and you just see something running through the grass, but you couldn't see what it was.
yeah.
And so
yeah.
that and Ghostbusters I thought were both going to be horror movies until I actually saw them.
I think the first treatment for ET was supposed to be a kind of more scary movie with like 5 different aliens, one of them being ET. Was it called Night Skies or something like that? If you look it up, the original treatment for ET was supposed to be a scary movie. There was like
much darker.
there was like a
Yeah.
mean alien. There was ET who was supposed to be like a child alien, and But every time I think of the ET, which is my strongest memory of watching a movie in the theater, I always remember the theater seemed so huge, and then later when I went back to that theater, older, it's a small theater. It's just a small little
Yeah.
room. But
Yeah.
back then, when the lights go down, it's like there's nothing around you. You're in the black void.
Yeah. Well, and the
Mhm.
world is huge when you're little.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Ricky goes into the bathroom to look for Lindy Lee's boyfriend, and
Yeah.
and something magical happens, right?
Yeah. I think that this tumor creature is creating a really unkind portrayal of John Wayne. Like, why is he going to murder somebody just for peeing on the street?
Yeah. So he goes into the bathroom and he closes the door, and all of a sudden he looks around. It's like, oh, I'm in the middle of a far west city. I'm in the middle of a, Wood Gulch, Main Street, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think at first he thinks he might be like, did I take something that didn't sit well with me? I should stop taking drugs. And he looks around and there's no door. And he's like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, like this whizzing bullet comes by and just nicks his ear. And it becomes really like very threatening all of a sudden. And
I think that's an interesting point too, because throughout most of the story, they talk about the things that are happening as illusions. But can an illusion create a bullet that that cuts your ear? And I don't know,
Or shoot you dead.
Yeah, exactly, like that like Dean, right?
Yeah, I think that is another trope that is like imagination made manifest, like when the dream crosses into the real world. So I think
Mhm.
that's what's happening here.
Well, and
This,
it's sort of briefly mentioned how much effort this creature has to put in to lure people in, right? Like for Lindy Lee, it's not very much. She doesn't, just has to create a little bunny,
She's just a
but
simple,
for
simple woman. Yeah.
yeah,
right.
but for Ricky, and I guess for Dean, it's this whole elaborate like Wild West, because they're like, well, this is the current movie that we just got out of, was some kind of Western, so
Yeah.
we're gonna do this Western.
Maybe it's trying to scare him away with this aggressive macho illusion first, like the John Wayne made flesh, right? He's like
Yeah.
he
He needs to finish Dean, so he probably can't take on two. The
Oh
tumor
yeah.
can't take on two people at the same time. So
yeah, and
Oh, okay.
he does find Lindy Lee's boyfriend laying on the gravel on the main street, like shot dead. Like there's
Yeah.
like he had a Mickey Mouse shirt, and one of the Mickey's eyes is right through the heart. He's got shot
Yeah.
there, and
he
and
dies, going, "What's going on?" And then
yeah,
falls.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He was
and
just in the
desperately,
toilet, yeah, trying to take
yeah,
it. He was trying to go to the bathroom.
yeah,
Yeah, and John Wayne says, "This guy was taking a dump in the middle of the saloon. What's going on with you people?"
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Are you with him?
yeah, because at that time Ricky gets so distraught. He's like, I know this is a bathroom. There's got to be something here, and all of a sudden he's trying to, in the middle of the air, he feels like the wall, the tile wall,
Yeah.
and he's getting so distraught. It's like, I gotta pee. He just immediately
Yeah.
goes to pee, and so he's peeing in the middle of the street as far as John Wayne is concerned. So it's like, what are you doing pissing in the middle of my street, boy?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because we got two characters, right, Ricky and Birdie, and the choices that they make are so different from each other. Like Birdie makes all the right choices and she knows what's the wrong things to do are. But Ricky, every situation he does the dumb thing, right? It's like, well, I'm going to prove that this isn't an illusion by peeing in the urinal, that I can feel that it's here. I just can't see it. And
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's like,
yeah.
really, he thinks that that's going to push the hallucinations away and bring him back to reality. And it's like,
He's
we're
trying to
all
hold
thinking,
on.
but he got shot in the ear with a bullet. So, it's not just all in his mind.
Yeah, yeah. But so this John Wayne that appears, is like he's really angry that he's doing that. Like David
Yeah.
said, you're peeing my street. That guy was taking a dump in the saloon, you know, and he's like, I'm gonna teach you a
he,
lesson.
but he makes him take his gun belt off. He says, take off your gun belt. And he's like, okay. And he doesn't have any guns, of course, but he takes his belt out of the loops and throws it in the urinal.
His
And,
belt
and
has
he,
all the keys jangling for the theater,
yeah,
right? Because he's the
Right.
yeah.
manager.
And so he's like, and at this point, you're kind of like, really, John Wayne, are you really going to shoot this guy who doesn't even have a gun?
Yeah, I think at this point the monster is trying to control, the situation,
Yeah.
and then he decides that aggressiveness is probably not going to work, because Ricky, looking at that John Wayne face, he starts thinking about all the stuff that is
Yeah.
represented by that character, like all the machismo and all the,
And it's John Wayne in his prime, the Rio Bravo days, not the
Yeah.
older, sick-looking one.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Who was dying from lung cancer.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Ricky seems to be a guy that's kind of like a bit punkish, a bit like, a subversive, like he doesn't take authority very well. So he doesn't like the idea of John Wayne telling him what to do. He kind of
Yeah.
focuses on all the things that he represents, and
Yeah.
he punches him in the face, and he
Yeah.
punches him again and punches him again, and he knocks him over. And that John
Yeah.
Wayne kind of gets up with his face bleeding. He's like, "Oh, we'll make a man out of you yet, boy." And he kind of
Yeah.
disappears.
And
You
in the
know,
comic adaptation, he was skeletal, like his flesh was kind of oozing away and looking kind of more menacing.
As the
Yeah.
illusion dissolved.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think at this point, the monster is going to try a different approach later, because this one, the direct threatening approach didn't work. So he's going to try something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, and he kind of got shunted out of the bathroom. So he finds himself sort of sitting on the floor, leaned up against the bathroom door with, blood coming down from his ear, down his shirt and stuff.
And then he
Eh.
passes out.
Yeah.
He
And a
passes out
Fay Ray
after,
scream.
yeah,
Yeah.
he passes out. And meanwhile, like you said earlier, Birdie, the ticket girl, and Lindy are in the lobby,
Yeah.
and Birdie's like, "I'm going to see what's taken so long," and Lindy Lee stays behind by herself, and she sees a little bunny. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland, right? She sees the white bunny
Yeah.
going up the steps.
Yeah.
Those are her
and
favorite movies, are the wildlife movies, she says,
Yeah.
right, animal cutesy stuff. So she
Yeah.
goes up, and she goes up the steps to the higher floor of the movie theater where there's like a dark hallway, and that's the last we see of her, at least
Yeah.
for now. So she disappears, and it even mentions that the monster was like, oh, she's fresh, she's like unspoiled, and he's just gonna snatch her up. So he
not
just
terribly
gobbles.
bright,
Yeah, not
but it's going to
terribly
put her
bright.
away for later for further investigation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
tentacle stuff. Anyway,
And I had completely forgotten about the ending of this story, and I thought she just got killed as I was rereading this,
mhm.
currently. I
Yeah.
completely forgot that, and we'll get to that later, but yeah, that kind of took me by surprise. I thought she was just another victim like Dean.
Yeah, that's right. So Birdie does end up finding Ricky, right? Unconscious in front of the bathroom. And Ricky's like, oh, there's a dead guy in the bathroom. And, he's bleeding from the ear, of course. And she's like, what are you on, dude? It's like, she goes in the bathroom, looks around. There's nothing there. It's like, get your shit together.
If she had actually opened the stall door, she would have found that guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because that corpse has been hidden. And
Yeah.
she, Birdie goes back to the lobby to try to call someone because she's like, let's find out what's going on here. Someone assaulted the manager, and the phone doesn't have a signal. It has someone talking to her, right? With a weird voice. It's almost like the Scream movie. Like,
yeah. It's Peter Lorre voice at first.
yeah.
Then
That,
morphs into Garbo.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's trying to take away her agency, to say that, you're stuck here. You're not going to get any help. You know who I am. And she asks, do I know you? And the voice says yes and no.
Yeah. Right. Because the movie characters that I'm, sort of inhabiting. But
Right.
You don't really know who I am or what I am.
And all of a sudden, the doors are locked and she can't open them. And then she remembers that Ricky has the keys. And this becomes another kind of trope thing, which is like in Demons, when the movie theater becomes closed and then the monsters start showing up. Or in Hellraiser, like the houses on Ludovico Street gets locked. And when, Kirsty opens the door, there's nothing there but a void. And then the engineer appears. It's like, you can't get out. You're stuck in this place. And now the action is going to take place in this set piece, in this area that we're in. And she does, go back to Ricky, and she asks him where the keys are.
And she's at first thinking that at least Lindy Lee got out. She must have found somebody to take her home, so that's good.
Yeah. But
She's like wised up and left because she realized the guy dumped her. But no.
Yeah, exactly.
But even with the keys, Birdie can't open the door. The door is totally locked, and there's no way to get out. And Ricky goes into the bathroom. He's like scratching his head, like, there's nobody here. And then he sees blood coming out of a stall. And that's when he opens the stall and he finds the kid, and his eyeballs have been taken out, of all things, right? The eyeballs, the things that we look at things with, the thing that our gaze gets out from, the thing that brings things in, imagination and stuff.
Not surgically removed either, but like violently removed.
Yeah.
Well, and also at this point, she's realizing that Lindy Lee must not have been able to escape because the doors were locked from the inside.
But she doesn't give her a thought anymore because she's got problems.
Yeah.
And she's also smart because when she was doing the phone thing with the entity, the tumor, she realized she's being messed with. And she's like, all right, enough of this. I'm going out and getting help. And that's when she's discovered everything's locked. She
Yeah.
does get the keys, but she can't open it because she talks about how that's what Ricky was good at. He could do the mechanical things. That kind of goes into the kind of the trope about women are not good with
Yeah.
engines and technology and stuff. That's the domain of
Even
men.
putting a key in a lock. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
like
so she
I
looks
like the way that
upstairs and says, like, I'm not going to go up there. It
yeah, she
Yeah,
reminded
nope.
me in the new Candyman, right? When she looks at the stairs going down to the basement of the laundromat, and she says, nope, and turns around and goes the other direction.
yeah, but unfortunately she doesn't have much of a choice because the only other phone line is in the office upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's she has to go there. And
Yeah.
but in the meantime, Ricky is confused and he's like, he finds the body of the guy, and then he hears this voice like saying, "Hello, Ricky," and he turns around, and this is the second attempt of the monster to entrap Ricky, and he's deciding to go the charm way, right? Try to
Right.
seduce him. So
Well,
this
because
time,
the first one wasn't meant for Ricky, it was meant for Dean.
Because
that's
he was a
right.
And
Western
so
guy.
yeah, so that wasn't really meant to ever work on Ricky. That was like, okay, now I can focus on you. This is what you really want as Marilyn Monroe.
That's
And
right.
talk about
That's
how
right.
the lights are flickering, and it's in a weird way where they recognize it, but they can't put their finger on it. And when he
Yeah,
sees this voice coming, it takes the shape of Marilyn Monroe. She's
yeah,
flickering, and then he
like
realizes it's like a movie projection as the light goes through each frame, that flicker. And
she's
as
Yeah.
he pays
24 frames per
more,
second. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
and then as he pays more and more attention, she solidifies
yeah,
as she starts feeding on him.
Which is of course the real magic of cinema, is that it's just a bunch of still images, but the way they
Hmm.
flicker through and our brain makes them into a video
yeah,
that's continuous, and we see the life come into those people that will live forever. But yeah, so he this time it's going to be Marilyn Monroe and seducing Ricky, and she's kind of walking away from him. He's kind of following her, and he's like immediately taken almost in a unrealistic way, of course, because he's being hypnotized and mesmerized by this vision. And
yeah,
and we all know the iconic shot of Marilyn Monroe on top of the vent where her skirt kind of flies up,
yeah,
and she kind of plays coy, and then she's in a corner, and then her skirt flies up, and oh, she's not wearing any panties. It's like he sees
yeah,
everything. He sees Paris. He sees France,
yeah,
and
He
yeah,
sees her
and
without her underpants.
yeah,
yes, that's right. And
yeah,
there's some glowing, glistening moistness in there, and it's like it's not what you think. It's blood, because when she's turning around, something falls off of her, and it's Dean's eyes.
yeah,
It's two eyeballs that fall off, and it's like,
yeah,
oh my god. And this is where it becomes monstrous all of a sudden. But
hmm,
for Ricky, it doesn't even turn him off. It kind of turns him more on.
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, and this is another instance of like, okay, what's the worst decision that you could make in this moment? Why don't you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Not
Yeah,
turn around and leave or run for your
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Like, no,
But
I'm gonna try and
yeah.
he's not thinking straight anymore. Nope.
If he
got
could
thinking
find
with his
Birdie
main
and
brain.
if he found Birdie and they could team up, they would have a way better chance of surviving.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
He has the brute strength and mechanical knowledge, and she has brains. So,
yeah,
but no, he goes in for it and pays the ultimate price because she's talking about how I need your attention. I need your eyes on me. You
yeah,
know, I crave this. I need to live. And so
Yeah.
she encircles
yeah.
him.
And it
Yeah.
only is just a few seconds. The seduction part is really short. Before it reveals itself to him, and now once it's got Marilyn Monroe put her arms around him, and then you can see in the graphic novel they turn into these tentacles, and then
Hmm.
his back is starting to creak from the pressure of because she's squeezing him really hard, and then the face turns into this weird tumor thing, and he's
tentacles come out and plug into his ears.
Ugh.
Yeah.
The monster
And pop-
needs and pop the eyes from behind, right? There's
Yeah.
a great moment where he says, "Oh," and all of a sudden his sight shifted. Oh, there's his nose, there's his face.
Mhm.
But this monster needs to be looked at. He needs to be looked at either with love or lust or fear. He just wants to be seen.
And that sort of first person description of the eyes and what he sees, like seeing his nose and his mouth as the eyes go on their way down.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the Midnight Meat Train movie, right? When the woman gets hit in the head with a hammer so hard that her head comes off, and it switches to her point of view, so you see the world kind of rolling as her head is rolling, and then a high-pitched whine, like as her hearing is kind of getting disconnected, and then her vision fades. It's like, that's really uncomfortable. And you feel that reading this in that story too. But it's also hard to feel sorry for Dean because he's so dumb. Not Dean, Ricky. I mean.
Right. Ricky, he's a druggie, and
He even says that he knew it was he knew it was going to be death to reach out and touch this illusion, but it's like, but death is a relative matter, right? And it kind of brings up this fake immortality that we get from these giant icons of cinema, where they might have died. Like, I mean, Marilyn Monroe died in 1962. We're in 2025, and there's still books, there's still movies being watched about her. There's still people who are completely obsessed.
And the tumor talks about that, how we live forever. We never age. We're always at our best, no matter what happens. Really, we can always be destroyed and come right back, just as we always were.
Yeah.
But but Ricky's not going to be immortal. I mean,
No.
he's just,
he's done.
He lost himself in the illusion, and But this demon is really a big parasite when you think of it. It's that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So that's a great death scene, and a great cover for the graphic novel adaptation by Les Edwards, because the cover is Marilyn Monroe, and she's got like blood coming out of her eye, and her tongue is licking the blood off her face.
Yeah.
And it's just such
Clive Barker's painting is also Marilyn Monroe for the Books of Blood Volume 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it Jacqueline S? Oh no, you're right. Yes. She's got the skirt.
It's right.
Yeah. Right. I see it. Yep. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. But yeah, so
they mentioned this whole thing takes place in like 3 minutes. From the time he comes out of the bathroom and sees this Monroe character and his death. Meanwhile, Birdie is trying to. She reaches under the counter and pulls out this crowbar.
Oh yeah.
That she calls the motherfucker. Because she
and I don't think,
was assaulted once.
I don't think they call it that in the comic adaptation, right?
No.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
It's just the story.
Yeah.
Because she got attacked. She got robbed once, and she couldn't defend herself. So she got this tire iron thing.
Yeah,
she
it's like
was
a
gonna
steel
use
bar or something.
Yeah, like
Lead
3
pipe.
foot long. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's armed herself, and now if she has to go upstairs to the phone, the other line,
Yeah.
she's got at least some type of weapon.
Yeah. And I think as an audience reading this, we all know that other phone's not going to work. I mean, why would it? If they
The first one didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I liked is when Marilyn Monroe is killing Ricky. At one point, the illusion falls, and we hear the real voice of the monster, right? Almost like a thug, saying, "Oh, it uses me up being in the physical world. I need."
Yeah.
And that's when the facade drops, and that we see that very body horror as well. Very much like this monster is almost like The Thing in Carpenter's film, right? Because he can shape shift, and he's got tentacles, and he can do whatever he wants. So very sluggish.
And
if eating Dean wasn't enough, then this thing is not sustainable, right? I mean, if it's got if murdering 2 or 3 people in one night still isn't enough, how is it even going to survive anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really out of control at this point.
That's why it's reaching out and trying to, take from people instead of just being passive, because it needs more as it grows.
Yep.
So Birdie's upstairs, right? And she's
Oh,
walking.
and it's not the phone. There's a fire exit up there. She knows.
Yeah.
So she's actually
right.
trying to get out now.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then she can't get the door open because it's locked. The one that has the fire exit.
That's when she tries to open the fire exit, and when she does, on the other side is this blasting light, gigantic eye, almost like a camera looking at her. Right? It's like
and it kind of looks around slowly and kind of lazily,
sluggishly.
Yeah.
Here's looking at you, kid. It's Bogey's voice.
Yeah. Because it's a line that's full of like almost like nostalgia and loss and stuff, because that's what Bogart says to Lauren Bacall when he's about to sacrifice and go away and never see her again. But in this case, it's here's looking at you, kid, and that thing, and she closes the door. And that's when she decides that she has to go upstairs because that noise and that light is starting to chase her into the theater.
Yep. She goes up the stairs and down that dark hallway. All the doors, of course, are locked because they're all storerooms up there.
Yeah.
But there's this
one of them she thought would have the fire exit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like all the stuff that's up there because, old theaters would have that stuff, like the old, what do you call those? The cardboard things with the stills of the movie that they would put up in the window.
Oh, yeah. The lobby cards and the lobby display.
Yeah.
I kept imagining
3D glasses.
Yeah.
The projection room must be up there somewhere, but it wasn't really mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah, they didn't mention it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now she's being chased by the monster and she's like trying to open every door and there's nothing. And that she kind of turns around and the monster wasn't behind her, wasn't coming after her. It was already behind her. Right. So, and
she turned around and looked and there's nothing there. Then she turns back and it's right there in front of her.
Yeah.
And
she sees this, hallucination of different flashes of movies, flashes of characters.
All
She's
the getting slowly hypnotized.
All the times that she'd ever been sort of absorbed into a movie and lost track of herself. They were replaying all of those times. So it was pretty irresistible until they picked the wrong one, right? Until they picked Dumbo. And she's like, wait a minute. That's what kids used to call me in school because she was overweight. And so they called her Dumbo, and that she just shook it off and she's like, that's it,
snapped out of it. And then she was able to break the illusion.
Yeah. And Jose, you were mentioning earlier that in the graphic novel, it was Jumbo and it was a pink elephant. And she in the graphic novel, she was wearing all pink. So she kind of, they kind of made that comparison, but it didn't make sense to call it Jumbo because that's not all of these other characters are real, real people from movies that were recognizable. What is Jumbo?
I guess they just used Jumbo instead of Dumbo because of the mouse,
Right. Yeah.
Because of Disney copyright,
But now, if nowadays Eclipse was part of Marvel and Marvel is now owned by Disney. So it would have been probably okay. But back then,
that probably wouldn't be much of a problem nowadays. But one thing that Birdie is thinking when she sees all that stuff, she feels like excitement at some of the visions, some make her sad. And then it says she gets this feeling of like whenever the credits would roll, it's like she had left something of herself behind. And I guess that kind of implies that psychic residue, that emotional resonance would go into the theater and be absorbed by the screen or whatever you want to call it, the cancer that was behind it. Which is, it's funny. You do feel like you left a part of yourself behind when you're done watching a movie. You kind of step out of it and people walk out and sometimes they're quiet, and you're just absorbing and meditating on the movie that you saw. And then, but that's really interesting. But when she sees Dumbo, she kind of snaps out of it. And she said, this is all a lie. She sees through the illusion. She breaks it. And then she wants to see what's behind the illusion. Right. So that's when she steps forward And then that's when she sees this weird son of celluloid. That's what it says here. Is she sees that?
Yeah, she's the one that gives it that name, and I think she calls it that maybe 3 times in the story.
Yeah, she says something that she sees this ghost, this son of celluloid, and the monster realizes that he's not going to take her by illusion, so he's going to try to take her by force. And she starts walking towards him, and he recedes, and then all of a sudden she breaks through the floor because it's an old rotted theater, and she finds herself falling into the area behind the screen. She falls right onto Barbario's rotting corpse.
Yeah, and they describe it in detail.
Yeah, and it's all gushy and like it's kind of spread out goo. And there's some foreshadowing of that a little earlier where they talked about that horrible smell behind the screen finally went away. We don't know what that was, because like the rotting had done most of its work, I guess, and there was no more. The smell was gone. But now she's landed in it.
Yeah. She gets up horrified, right? She wants to howl because she's like, oh no, she's got remains all over her. And then she sees something move in the corner of her eye. And and it's almost like this weird, like fleshy thing. And it talks, it speaks. It says, now you know. This is and he says, that's the body I once came out of. His name was Barbario. He was
Sonny.
nothing Sonny
Barbario.
Yeah.
He actually gives the full name. Said he was nothing special. He never aspired to anything.
Yeah.
I, however, do.
Yeah. He never aspired to greatness. And I'm his cancer. I'm the piece of him which did aspire, that wanted to be more than a single cell. And then he calls himself a dreaming disease, which, makes that thing about people watching movies and people watching too many movies, I guess, and getting experience by proxy instead of living their own lives. And he says, I'm a dreaming disease. No wonder I love the movies. And he's been gathering that psychic energy. And he's just like a weird tumor with the shape of a slug, right? He's kind of like texture of raw liver. It's he's so gross.
In the comic adaptation, he's clearly bigger than he would have been if he were still inside of Barbario, right? Because it was like bigger than it was like the size of a watermelon, I think.
Yeah.
In the comic,
he's grown.
Yeah.
He must have grown off his dead body as he's getting the psychic energy too.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to have to eat your soul in a different way. Instead of like using illusion and whatever he used, he's going to have to actually like try to crawl on her, and starts getting these little tentacles on her body. And she's like,
Yeah.
And she's kicking at him and stuff. But
well, no, she's letting it do it. Cause she's thinking, okay, just a little bit longer. You got to let him do this, because she's got to resist the urge to push it off, because she's got a plan. She rolls over on her stomach and squishes it.
All 225 pounds that she knows of.
That she knows of. I like that.
Yeah.
And she starts ripping bits off of him while he's thrashing behind underneath her. And he's like, really
can't escape. She's got him pinned.
Escape.
Yeah.
She's kind of getting rid of all her pent up anger as well. I mean, this idea that she was being tricked by something so
all the horror of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of complicated and conflicting messages in this story, right? Like her life, her and Ricky's life in the movie theater seems like just kind of an unambitious waste, like they've just kind of wasted their lives. But at the same time, the ambition and the magic of movies is a big part of it too. So it's kind of interesting that their lives are kind of, a waste, but then the movies are, something important seems like to be a part of.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of plateaued there. They're kind of standing still where they are, and they're not aspiring to anything. But the movies are what's proxy giving them some energy. But
she refers themselves as flotsam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barbario's tumor is kind of like this merge of a physical disease with like the decades of emotional
Yeah.
residue from the audience, and it becomes a sentient creature.
Yeah.
A, a fusion of body horror and dream.
Is this a kind of a thing, that a creator like Clive Barker might look at the fans and say, like, here I am making stuff, and you guys, all you're just like watching my movies and reading my books and stuff, but you're not making anything of your own.
I guess. I mean, there's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, you could bring that up. Absolutely. Um,
But
and
I
also
don't know.
that there's a
It's complicated. It's not, it's not like one.
I think it was
it's not
more
as cut and dry as that.
not him. I think it's more of the movies,
Yeah.
the whole genre of cinema
Well,
as
no,
he
you're
saw
right,
it
because
growing up.
he wasn't even famous when he was writing this.
Yeah, he was a
That,
nobody.
yeah, yeah,
He was referring to the cinema and the cinema
yeah,
legends of old from his point
right,
of view in the
yeah,
early 80s.
yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said about maybe the dangers of spectatorship. Like maybe you become a part of that, complicit in
yeah,
that hunger of the monster.
Hmm.
yeah,
Uh,
You
sure,
feed it
you feed
with
it. Yeah,
your money and your attention and and it I know some people do kind of like live through TV shows or movies
yeah,
and
right,
ignore themselves and their
right,
ambitions
yeah. With
to a fault.
They lose themselves to
yeah.
escapism.
Yeah, yeah. Escapism is nice in small doses, but if you escape to escapism, it's a trap itself.
Oh yeah, that's Harvey Swick in The Thief of Always, and that's like Frank in The
Hmm.
Hellbound Heart. There's a tipping point where you push it too far, and now all of a sudden you're um food for some greater, monster creature thing.
Yeah.
There could be like some criticism also of celebrity worship. I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this is kind of the end of part two, right? She escapes into the alley after she squishes this thing, and she's
Yeah.
all caked in dirt, and she goes home.
Yeah. She finds the
Um,
vent. Hmm.
yeah, right, the vent that Barbario snuck into. Um, so she had talked to the police and brought them back, and they discovered everything that had happened, and she was on trial for double homicide, but nobody ever really believed that she did it
Yeah,
because
there's no real
Evidence.
evidence but they think she's
yeah,
insane, of course. So,
yeah, because her explanation doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Because tales of walking cancers, it's like they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
cuckoo.
So
yeah.
was she institutionalized, or was she just like, you have to get mandatory therapy
I
for
think both. I think she was
yeah,
institutionalized for a bit because she talked about how she stopped eating and
Hmm.
drinking and she lost 20 pounds. And of course, it was water weight, but
yeah,
it helped get her on track to start losing more weight.
Yeah. The
yeah,
court
and she
recommended that she had psychiatric observation for no less than 2 years.
Hmm.
yeah, and so I'm thinking maybe she wasn't institutionalized because she had the freedom to hire a private investigator.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
think she
so,
got out of the institution and then she had to be like, supervised for a couple years beyond that,
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
is what I
Because it,
thought.
So,
because it cuts to the summer of the following year when she goes missing
Hmm.
for a week.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and what's on her mind is like they never found the body of Lindy Lee.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
she's thinking she hired a private investigator to try to track her down. And the investigator figured out where she was, and now she's headed there, and it's in a house in Seattle. And so the thing that was on my mind as I was reading this recently is like, how much carnage would Lindy Lee have created if it's been 2 years since she got put away, right? And all
Well,
those
a
events
few
happened.
months. Yeah. I mean, a few months because it says that the summer of the following year, that's when she went missing. Um,
But she
She's
had to
been
be
out about a
observed
year.
for, I thought she had to be observed for 2 years.
hmm.
Maybe that 2 years
Well,
weren't up
when
yet.
they talk about the trial, tales of walking cancers do nobody's reputation much good. In the early summer of the following year, Birdie gave up eating for a week. That weekend, she went missing for 24 hours, and that's when she
Oh,
goes to
okay.
Seattle.
Okay.
Um, so
So
yeah,
she was
but
under
you bring
observation.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
bringing a good point. I mean, this monster had to survive.
Mhm.
So I don't know that it was just living off Lindy Lee, or if he
Yeah.
might have been also living off other people that it might have killed. That's right. I mean, it could have been
Well-
like killing other people.
And it has the same consciousness as the one that she squished because it
Mhm.
recognized her, even though this would have been technically like a child of the first one.
And like the
Or-
movies, and like they say in the movies, nobody dies. You know,
Mhm.
this victory, there's still one last boo, right? When you think
Yeah.
the monster is dead, there's going to be a little, extra thing, or like you guys mentioned,
Yeah.
a post-credit scene.
Yeah. So she finds this house in Seattle and it's all dilapidated and there's like literal crap on the floor. And Lindy Lee kind of gets up and says hi, and then she realizes who she's looking at. Oh, that's Birdie. And all of a sudden, like tumor stuff pours out of all, like a cut in her thumb and her ears and her eyes and her nose and all
Every
everywhere.
opening.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
opening she
rivers
has.
of this pink slime kind of pour out of her, and
Yeah.
and Ricky shoots her 3 times.
Yeah. And not just
Yep.
that.
Not Ricky,
Birdie.
Birdie. Yeah.
Birdie.
And
Yeah.
then she pours acid on the body to burn it all up, destroy the
Yeah.
tumor.
She's
she
a
was
really
prepared.
strong-willed final girl. Yeah. She's like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna half-ass this. I'm gonna do the job fully.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna make sure
It's
every
like-
trace of you is, boiled and corroded away.
It's like with a vampire, stuff their mouth full of holy wafers and cut their head off and put them in
Yeah.
the sun. Yeah.
Yeah. And now she's looking different. She lost a lot of weight, and
Yeah.
she's kind of took control of her life, and she steps out in the street, and it says here, confidently planning to live long after the credits for this particular comedy had rolled, which is funny. He
Mhm.
mentions a comedy, calls this a comedy, but yeah, so she comes out on top, and we get a happy ending, which is another kind of thing that we always expect a movie to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a good happy ending. She defeats the monster.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think the
And
monster
walks
was
off
waiting
into-
for her, because the word that the monster says when she gets into the house, like, well, like, well, here we are, final showdown.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of interesting topics here, like the mixture of sexuality and violence with the whole Marilyn Monroe illusion
Yeah.
scene.
Right.
There's the body horror that Clive Barker is known to do, but also body transformation. Like Birdie
Yeah.
changes herself through pain and through the horrible ordeal that she
Yeah.
goes through.
And all the shapes it takes to lure people in.
Yeah. And people losing themselves to their fantasies or their dreams, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
that's a big recurring Clive Barker theme.
And how we project our passions and our fears into the illusion of movies, or the stories that we hear, the films that we watch.
Living vicariously through them, you can face death, in a movie, and it's safe. There was some interview where Clive Barker had said it's like when you have a bad tooth and you have to keep on poking it with your tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the graphic novel adaptation is pretty amazing. Like you said at the beginning, it's
Mhm.
adapted by Steve Niles and Les Edwards, who you might recognize from making covers for some of Clive Barker's books and other covers for all sorts of books. Les Edwards is a very prolific British author. And it's all painted, which is really amazing. Every single page is painted. I found Les Edwards' website where he's still selling original pages from that story. He's selling
Really?
each for like £250,
I
which
would
is
have
a
thought they'd all
little
have
over
been sold by
$300.
now. Was that like 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm looking at
25,
the
something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at lesedwards.com, and I found that he has like at least page number 1 with Barbaria walking
Wow.
through the thing. It says, this original artwork is available for £250. Please contact Les
Wow.
for a shipping quote. And
That's pretty cool.
that's a little over $300. It's very attractive. So if you go to Les Edwards' website and you want to get a piece of this story, you probably can if you're willing to buy that.
Oh, that's neat. We'll have to put that link in the show notes too.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Les Edwards site.
We talked
And,
about how if this would be tried to they try to translate this into some type of movie would be very
Yeah.
hard because of the rights. I know Stephen King. So this is an interesting thing about literature. You can write a description about somebody, and
Yeah.
that's not a problem. But like if you go to a comic book or a movie, the person's likeness is owned by them, their estate, or the
Oh
character
yeah.
is
Yeah.
owned by a company. It's like Stephen King, like the Dreamcatcher. There's a part in there where in the book they talk about how these aliens would psychically try to convince people not to kill them, but they use the voice of John Wayne or Rambo or
Mhm.
famous people. On the movie, they couldn't do that, of course, because they wouldn't have the rights, or it costs too much money to get the rights to people's
Yeah.
voices and likenesses. This
They
here,
could do an imitation though if they wanted to.
yeah, it would have to be like a
Yeah.
goofy one, like you said, like in the comic where they put Dumbo and Jumbo instead of Dumbo.
Yeah.
Some type
Or
of
they
thing
could
like
just
that.
pay for it. They can pay for it too.
Yeah, that
If
would
it's
be
big
very
enough.
probably
Yeah.
cost prohibitive. How much would you have to pay the John Wayne estate or Marilyn Monroe estate?
Well, see, that's
to be-
interesting though, because in the comic they did have a picture of John Wayne, and
Yeah,
they had a Marilyn Monroe. So
and she's on the cover right there behind you.
yeah. But those ones were okay, but Dumbo was problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't know if there even is a Monroe estate that
Yeah.
handles, or she might be like a fair use now.
You're
There-
right.
There was a proposed movie adaptation for Son of Celluloid really early on. Back
Mhm.
in the day when Clive was still, after Nightbreed, I think, or before Nightbreed, there was a 3-picture deal that Clive was working on with Morgan Creek back in 1988. So he shot Nightbreed in 89 and it came out in 1990. But there was a 3-picture deal that he had initially with Morgan Creek, which was intended to cover, I'm reading this from the Phil and Sarah's website, Revelations. This was intended to cover an adaptation of Son of Celluloid, as well as Nightbreed and a Nightbreed sequel. Those were going to be the 3 movies. But then that never really panned out, as we know. And but there was a script adaptation completed by a guy called Scott Gilmore in June of 1988. And it says here, from which the Marilyn Monroe sequence was notably absent. So talking to what you guys were mentioning.
Oh,
Although the
wow.
cancer's predilection for the eyes of its victims remained central, the subject matter of Son of Celluloid, however, made for difficult conversations with the money men, the producers, right? Because
Uh-huh.
how are you going to sell that? And then Clive said in 1990 to a magazine called Video World, I pitched a few of my stories to Columbia Pictures a few years back. They obviously hadn't heard of them, but liked the sound of one called Son of Celluloid. That's a fun title, they said. What's it about? And I just said, it's about a cancer that does impressions of movie stars. Their faces hit the floor. Wham. And suddenly I wasn't so welcome in their offices anymore. So there you go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once Nightbreed didn't make a lot of money in the box office, that 3-movie deal kind of fell through. But what a shame.
Because he went on to United Artists for Lord of Illusions.
Yeah. But what a shame. That would have been something pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, although it would be tough because it feels like, I mean, the Marilyn Monroe was kind of a linchpin part of the story, right? I mean, they made it the cover of both the book and the comic.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be difficult to make it without that. I think that people would be going into the movie expecting that.
And nowadays, this thing is like our vampire, right? Nowadays, people are addicted to watching reels.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I hate how those
media.
things. I hate how those things suck up my attention.
Yeah. So here's the modern version of Barbario's cancer. Reels on your phone. People get addicted to this stuff, and
or doom scrolling on X, or
absolutely.
and
other social media.
There are so many things in older horror movies where a person's problem would be solved if they just had a cell phone. Like they can't get to a phone to call the authorities, or
they can't look up some information, or
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so it's when people do remakes of, or when people make adaptations of older stories, a lot of times they have to try to figure out, well, what's the reason that their cell phone's not working? And, I would prefer they just, like if they made this movie, I'd prefer they just set it in the 80s.
Yeah, that's always a good way to get around that. Is just let's go in a time before cell phones. So
yeah.
And nowadays it's cool to go back to the nostalgia of the 80s. I mean, Stranger Things season 5 is coming out soon, which has been, a lot of it is based on the nostalgia of the 80s.
Right.
I love the body horror mixture of the monster created from film and flesh. Like, it reminds me a lot of Videodrome. That's another movie that has definitely a kind of a similar. Of course, Cronenberg always turns the body horror into more like a bad thing, whereas Clive kind of tends to give it a little bit of a twist of transformation, not necessarily bad. But yeah, Videodrome is a movie that also has this idea of like the video made flesh, or The Ring, where the monster comes out of the TV. The ghost comes out of the TV, a haunted media thing.
A haunted videotape. Yeah.
Or even what I did a while ago, that article I wrote about Ben Drowned, about the game Majora's Mask, which is a haunted piece of media where people will be playing a game and then there's a ghost in the game that comes to life. So yeah, that's a mixture of rotting flesh and pop culture glamour that it's very cool.
Well, and I had put the question out, but I only gave people a couple hours. So on Reddit and on Discord, and I don't know if we got any response, because doesn't look like we got any response on Discord. We'll check on Reddit really quick. And a lot of times you post something and you're asking for people's thoughts, but mostly people click like. And that's kind of what happened here. But I put links to those, so if people missed their chance to get onto the episode, at least there'll be the link, so people can follow that and see what they said later on. From our show notes or from the blog or whatever. Coming next, we're looking to talk to the people on the Hellraiser Revival Discord, because David, are you on that server?
No.
Oh, okay. It's blown up really big. We thought it was just kind of a fan server about the upcoming video game, but now they're doing all these interviews with past Hellraiser cast and stuff.
Yeah,
and
they got Valentina Vargas to do an interview with them. She played Angelique. They got Simon Bamford to do some videos and stuff like that. So they're working hard on that.
One of those guys made his own fan edit of Hellraiser Bloodline, and they screened it through the Discord. Yeah.
I have to check it out. So get joined on that.
Yeah. So next week we're going to be talking to them and seeing how, the impetus for all of this and what made that Discord server blow up like it did. And more interviews and news and Book Club of Blood. The next one will be Rawhead Rex. That's a big story, right? That's good. So that'll be a larger episode when we get to that one.
Yeah, we got the story, we got a graphic novel, we got a movie, and I think we might have the original script that Clive Barker wrote for that. We'll have to dig that out.
Oh, for Rawhead Rex?
Yeah, I think there's like a script that was floating around at some point. I need to check what that is.
Yeah, well, and I don't think the script changed that much from what we got in the movie.
Right. We've mentioned that before, I think.
I think the real problem with the movie is the direction,
the budget,
the design of the creature. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The goofy monster with the glowing, LED eyes.
Yeah.
That's still my favorite part. That kid getting eaten was just the best.
Yeah. And the graphic novel, I think, is also adapted by Les Edwards. I think. It's also painted, like the graphic novel of Rawhead Rex is all painted. And there was an original adaptation that was going to be done by Stephen Bissett that fell through. And there are some images from that failed adaptation as well that are in my archive. So I need to dig those out. With the teeth that would come out of the gums and double edges of teeth and stuff.
Oh, we just came in at the last second. We have one comment from
Oh.
Reddit. Rising Path Music said, had this graphic novel and it was absolutely gorgeous. Can't remember all of it, but I do believe it involves some mainstream characters like Mickey Mouse and John Wayne. Would love to read this again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to revisit this story for sure and reread that graphic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this wonderful story where the theater becomes a cathedral of collective dreams. And
Yeah.
and it becomes this haunting of our own making that cancer grows on our psychic energy and
Yeah.
becomes flesh. Very cool. Very interesting
Yes.
idea.
Yeah. Well, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.